Good morning from WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant, hoping you're having a nice weekend here on the weekend before Christmas, as the Commonwealth will be pausing for a moment and folks enjoy their families and friends. Shopping seems to be steady with a slowly improving economy across Kentucky. It's the quiet before the storm in Frankfort as the capital is getting ready for the 2016 legislative session. Hundreds of bills likely to be up for consideration, from proposals to fix the state's broken pension plans to deregulating drones. They'll talk about a lot of things. It's a budget year, and the new governor, Matt Bevin, will propose a spending plan for the next 2 years for Kentucky. Businesses across Kentucky seeing more activity. Many owners know that their future is tied very closely to the overall welfare and education levels of Kentuckians. Some businesses say they have jobs available but cannot find qualified applicants. And some businesses are being honored as great places to work. Our guest today heads up the largest business group in the Commonwealth, the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. The president and CEO of the chamber has been in his current post for many years now. Before that, he was the mayor of Owensboro, dipped his toe into a congressional race one time. So Dave Adkisson has lots of perspectives, and he's here to share them with us today. Thanks for coming in.
Glad to be here. Happy holidays.
Thanks, and same to you. It's always good to see you. The cash registers seem to be whirring along. People are whipping out their plastic and spending a lot, it looks like, ahead of the Christmas holiday. Do you get reports that businesses are encouraged by what's happening?
Yes, I think businesses are generally very encouraged. We're going to be releasing a report from Dr. Paul Coombs, who's an economist, who's an advisor to our chamber. We're going to be releasing that here in a couple of days, reporting on how far the economy in 9 specific regions of Kentucky how those economies have done since the depths of the recession, which is now 5 or 6 years old. So we'll be coming out with that. But generally, I think the news across the state is positive. So positive in a sense that there are workforce shortages, as you mentioned. Employers like Toyota, big employers, Toyota gearing up for amazing car production, plus the new Lexus. GE in Louisville, Ford in Louisville announcing the need for 2,000 new jobs to make trucks there. You've got Amazon.com needing hundreds, over 1,000 holiday workers, UPS needing holiday workers. So it's all across the board, and even when you call somebody to help fix your roof, you hear stories about, I can't get help. So that's going to be a common theme, I think, in 2016.
So there's some confidence reflected in people, at least when they're out there buying.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, on these workforce development issues and trying to get Kentuckians paired to the jobs that are available, what is the Chamber of Commerce recommending that the state and those employers try to do?
Well, we're trying to put together a workforce development center within the chamber so we can be more proactive on this. But in the meantime, you've got millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, that the state is spending on training. We're trying to make sense out of that. In 2015, we released a report where we had looked at all of that, and I've been meeting with Governor Bevin's new people, Hal Heiner and others, about how they can make sense out of all those different programs. Some of that money comes from the federal government through Frankfort to the local area, like area development districts, for example. The Kentucky Community College and Technical System spends a whole lot of money training people for specific jobs, and they do a very nice job of that. But there are hundreds of millions of dollars. I think there's going to have to be more accountability in general in the future so that we know where the money goes and what the results are from those pots of money.
And as those colleges and universities decide what they are going to offer or what they're going to encourage students to major in, where do they get information that will be helpful to them in doing that?
I think in the next few years we'll see a surge of information, not just from the federal government, but from private agencies that monitor the job market, and it'll tell students before they decide to major in psychology or philosophy or whatever that, yeah, that's fine, that's a worthy field, but by the way, here's probably what you'll make in your first 10 years, here's how much debt you might incur getting your degree. So I think students will be able to more, with more awareness, make choices, and I think that's important for the workforce of the future.
You mentioned Governor Bevin. He's been in office a couple of weeks now. He's gotten generally favorable reviews for the cabinet that he has put together. What are your impressions?
Very positive. The people he has drawn into his cabinet, the ones I know, are experienced people, people who have standing in their own fields. And Governor Bevin is proud that he's coming in basically unencumbered in terms of promises or commitments. He came in as an outsider. He won in an amazingly dramatic race, and so he's picking people based on, and he likens himself to some extent like former Governor John Y. Brown Jr., who came in as the multimillionaire, the successful businessman who could pick top talent, get them to sacrifice their careers in order to serve state government. So we see a lot of that going on. I'm encouraged about it. The governor spoke at our legislative preview conference with a few hundred people in Lexington on Monday. Does a remarkable job without notes. He just hits this point, this point, this point, and makes his case. And I think we're in for some interesting times.
He worked out this plan to get the Kentucky National Guard members their college tuitions paid, convincing the university presidents to hold off for this payment from the state until that can all be figured out and the budget can be adjusted.
Right.
And that announcement was made at your event, right?
That's right. He had just done that on a conference call with the university presidents and the president of KCTCS. But at our conference, he also started to detail some of his policy thoughts. And, you know, he came into, we all knew him in the campaign and what he was campaigning on, trying to read the tea leaves as to exactly what that would mean. Well, now he's filling in the blanks because he has to fill in some blanks, and he's doing that very freely and articulately. So we have a reporter who works for us, and she wrote up a blog saying he said this, said this, said this. We had more hits on that in the next 2 or 3 hours than anything we've ever put out before, because people, I think, are hungry to find out where all of this is going.
You'll bring the legislative leadership together with the new governor early in the new year. Governor Bevin has urged people to look beyond partisanship, and yet obviously there's this undercurrent about control of the state house that is obviously going on. There'll be several special elections because of vacancies, 2 of those because the governor appointed Democrats to jobs. So what observations do you have about the partisan atmosphere in Frankfort, and do you find that there is room to work?
Yes, we've had some success in the past in pursuing things with the divided legislature. Obviously, a business organization like ours has to deal with the reality of whatever legislature is elected by the public. Now there's all this intrigue in Frankfort, and you ask, is it pretty real there? Yeah, you could cut it with a knife in Frankfort right now. The question being whether or not the House of Representatives, which is currently in Democratic control, will swing to Republican. And it's a very narrow margin right now, and a couple people, one person switched parties. And you mentioned the appointees. The appointment of John Tilley from Hopkinsville, a very strong Democratic, young, bright leader, that was such a perfect fit for the governor's administration. I'm sure there were some political calculations on all sides, but it was a substantial move that I don't think anybody in Frankfort would seriously question on its merits. But it leaves an open seat in Hopkinsville now, which is an area that's trending toward the Republican Party. So, between now and December 31st is very important, because that's the only window in which people can switch parties and still run for the legislature next year. If the legislature stays in the hands of the Democrats at this time, then all attention will go to, well, first there will be attention on the filing deadline in late January, and then of course a lot of attention on the elections, and I would say some real money, very expensive races in November.
And how closely is business watching this? How closely are your members concerned and feel that what happens in their business is inextricably tied to what goes on in Frankfort?
I would say some business leaders follow it very closely. Many business leaders, however, basically follow the politics in their local area, and they either like their senator or their representative or they don't. Our organization is a pretty big tent in the sense that we represent thousands of businesses across the state. We're nonpartisan. We have business people of all stripes in our chamber, Democrats, Republicans, probably mostly slightly right of center, because business people typically are. They'll watch this and watch it closely. Of course, we're watching it as a chamber because our legislative agenda will be impacted good and bad, depending on how the winds shift in Frankfurt.
Does Governor Bevin appear to agree with you on most of your agenda, or if he...
Yes, I mean, he's got a business background, and he wants to make some changes, so there will be parts of our agenda that get a much stronger voice, things like right to work, things like prevailing wage. He still has, at least from what we can tell right now, to deal with a divided legislature. If that switches, then the whole situation in Frankfurt, the environment changes considerably. But yes, we have found him very supportive of some major tenets of our proposal, of our agenda. There are some areas where there are slight differences. I have found him very willing to listen and very thoughtfully consider. You know, just 2 years ago, when Governor Bevin was pretty much unknown outside some small business circles in Louisville, he would come to our legislative agenda meetings and our business summit and sit on the back row with a legal pad and take notes. He's very studious. I met with him recently and shared our legislative agenda, and he said, yeah, I've read your last three, you know, and had marked it up as to where he agrees, where he doesn't. And I thought that's very refreshing, and I'm going to have to do my homework when I work with this gentleman.
What are the top couple of things he agrees with you on, and what are the couple of things he may disagree about?
The top issue that we have in common would be the absolute necessity to do something about the pension crisis in Kentucky. He has a fairly distinct view of that, moving everybody to a defined contribution plan, or what you might call a 401k type plan. I've served on the governor's commission on the teachers' retirement system, and of course teachers don't receive Social Security, so it puts them in a special arrangement. Where we agree is that it's a major problem, big dollars, we got to solve it. And we've got to do something in the 2016 session, or we'll get our bond rating downgraded yet again. It might be downgraded anyhow, but I think if the bond rating agencies see some discipline that comes out of this 2016 session, they might take their foot off of our chest a little bit. So, Governor Bevin, Chamber, business community agree on the pension thing. Other things like right to work, he's very strong on that, and he'll use his bully pulpit, if you will, to champion that.
And what do you not see eye to eye with him on?
We'll have to wait and see. I mean, he's filling in blanks on specific policies, and you know, the devil's in the details on most of these types of issues. Initially, our chamber, and I'm talking about 4 or 5 years ago, favored the state medical insurance exchange, Connect. Our position was, and we took this from our members across the state, business people said we'd rather have a state-based exchange than a Washington-imposed exchange. Well, things have changed, and of course Governor Bevin has said we're going to do away with all that. I think we've got to look at the cost. Will it cost more for businesses paying insurance premiums or less? What's the transition cost? Are there any penalties? I think we'll have to look. We're revisiting that, and frankly listening to our members, hospitals, insurance companies, doctors, seeing how they perceive this.
Governor Steve Beshear did an expansion of Medicaid. How does the business community feel about that, as Governor Bevin indicates he will at least change that?
Right. I haven't heard, and we didn't have a policy on the Medicaid expansion itself. Of course, that's a very different issue from the Connect issue. They were blended a lot and confused a lot in the campaign, I think. But on Medicaid expansion, some of our larger members, hospitals and all, have adapted to this new environment. They like the fact that more people are insured. They like the fact that they have less bad debt on their books, or folks who can't pay the bill. So I think there's some nervousness about major changes. I hear from legislative leaders an inclination, yeah, we need to tweak it, we need to improve it. They're looking at the Indiana model. I sense that Governor Bevin and his people have developed a rapport with Governor Pence in Indiana, and they'll be talking a lot about it. The term you hear a lot in Frankfurt right now about the Medicaid expansion is that everyone needs to have some skin in the game. In other words, if somebody on Medicaid goes to an emergency room, why wouldn't you have to pay $5 or $10? Something, pay something towards your bill. So I think you'll hear a lot of talk around everybody needs to share some of this.
Dave Adkisson is with us here. He is the president of the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, and we have a lot more to go with him. We'll talk about the big sectors in Kentucky's economy, automotive sector and so forth, coming up on WKYT in just a moment. Welcome back into WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. We're visiting with the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce President, Dave Adkisson, who is with us today, the largest group of businesses in Kentucky at a very interesting time of change here in Kentucky with the state legislature coming in about a couple of weeks. What else will you be watching in the legislature? We know that they will debate hundreds of things. We mentioned earlier everything from the pensions to drones.
Right. Well, I've kind of, in my mind, divided it into the things that have to happen, the things that ought to happen, and the things we'd like to have happen. In the have to happen, pension reform and the budget. Pension reform, hopefully earlier than later in the session. The last thing we need is for a pension package to be balled up in the budget and get passed at 11:30 on the last night, and you get stuff in there you don't even really know what you did or why you did it. So we're calling for the legislature to move early for a pension package. I don't see how they can pass a budget without having the pension package pretty well defined up front. So
there's going to be expenditures required.
Yes, that's right, especially on the teachers' retirement system. So pensions and budgets, I think, are must. Something that ought to happen is our P3 bill, the public-private partnerships. It passed the House, passed the Senate 2 years ago, was vetoed by the governor because of the bridge in northern Kentucky issue. Last year it passed the House with strong Democrat and Republican support, bogged down in the Senate. So that's something that we consider it like motherhood and apple pie. The P3 bill ought to pass this time. In terms of what we will work on and advocate aggressively, and we hope that it will get some progress this time, the statewide smoke-free law, the right to work, repealing prevailing wage. We advocate for charter schools in certain circumstances where there have been chronically underperforming schools. So we'll have our traditional chamber business agenda items that haven't been fulfilled before. One new one is on felony expungement. The idea of forgiving somebody and giving them a clean slate. And typically, I'll admit that the typical response in the business community up until this year has been, that's not really our kind of issue. Why would you want to hire a felon?
And that's changed?
That has changed. What I call the social justice advocates out here who have been advocating that kind of move for some years pretty consistently, growing their voice. We've now met up. We're coming at it not from the social justice angle as much as the workforce angle. There are 94,000 Kentuckians who have a Class D felony on their record, a non-violent Class D felony, and our view now is that if someone has served their time and has gone felony-free, no other offenses for at least 5 years, and they were not a violent criminal or someone who was accused of abuse of children or elders, then why not let them have a better shot at the job market? So we have moved to a middle ground on felony expungement.
Haven't you also previously supported the LIFT option, the local option sales tax?
That's right.
For a defined period of time for a specific purpose that has to be approved by the local voters?
That's right. So if a community decides they want to build a new library or a new city hall or whatever, and if they're willing to impose an extra penny on the sales tax in their city or county, and the voters decide that, it goes to the ballot box, and if it sunsets 5 or 6 years later, in other words, the tax rolls back off automatically, then our view is why not let the local community. Business people tend to be hesitant about taxes, as you can imagine, but on something like this, our board of directors came down strong in favor of local control.
And I think Governor Bevin said on this one that he will not advocate, but he will not block it, right?
That's right. So it'll be interesting to see if it gets legs. I think we might look back on this session and say that, well, 80% of the oxygen in the room was drawn out by the discussion over pensions and budgets, and some of these others didn't get a lot of play, but there are clearly going to be advocates, and it's a part of our agenda that we're pushing.
You have said that Kentucky needs an energy policy that is clear, that we know where we're going. As we know, we have had a wide open public debate for many years in the state about the future of coal. What does the chamber advocate in terms of where we go on energy?
Well, right now we're listening and talking. We're talking to our members and listening to what they have to say. Coal companies, utility companies, manufacturing companies that use a lot of electricity and are concerned about rates. You know, the federal clean air regulations have come down regarding power plants, and there has been a court action to stay those regulations. In other words, ask the court to say, hey, wait a minute, hold off on these. Then there's an appeal process going on too, and the state during all this has to submit a plan for how it will deal with the proposed lower emissions. So we're very concerned, and we're very concerned about this kind of a sledgehammer from Washington coming down and hurting the coal economy. The good news about Kentucky is that our electricity is inexpensive here. We might not think that when we have to write the check every month, but it really is inexpensive compared to other states. The problem is that we're 95% dependent on coal. And so anything out of Washington or anything from the energy sectors that upset the energy markets against coal is going to disproportionately hurt Kentucky.
And so that's something that you'll be heard on. Let's talk about the automotive sector in Kentucky. It is now, you mentioned earlier, more jobs now coming to Louisville, more higher-end products being built in Louisville, as well as at the Georgetown plant with the Lexus line that is coming there. We're doing it pretty well, aren't we?
That's right. Not only those expansions that have been announced in 2015 or executed in 2015, like the Lexus project and the Ford truck project, but all the numbers I see of projections about automobile sales in this country and across the globe in 2016 are very favorable. So you've got car companies and suppliers of car companies, probably 150 at least in Kentucky that supply automotive companies. They're going all out to just keep up with the demand.
Maybe driverless cars before long, huh?
Well, I see where California is about to pass regulations to allow that in 2017, so I guess it's coming.
All right, we're with Dave Adkisson, back with our remaining moments in just a bit here on WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers as we hear from the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce and their agenda going into the legislative session. Welcome back into WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. We're our remaining moments here with the president of the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, Dave Adkisson. An area that's really interesting to me is the fact that as we try to get people matched to the jobs and get the employment up, realizing that there are companies that need workers, but maybe the people out there don't have the skills to take those jobs. There are these so-called soft skills, that is communication skills, punctuality, the basics, that are a real concern, right?
It's a real concern in the business community right now. We hear that more than any other major concern. We did a survey this past year in which we asked our members, what are your main challenges? And a certain slice of that group said the lack of technical skills. Others said, well, they've got skills, but we have to retrain them for other skills. Only a small minority of business leaders said, we find that the workforce has the right set of skills. I mean, it was like 8%. The big thing that comes back just real strong is the lack of soft skills. And generally that means folks who are willing to show up on time, work in teams, communicate with each other, and show up the next day. Sometimes they'll come and spend a week or so and say, I don't really like this, and be gone. So that is a concern. I know in the Kentucky Community College system, they're starting to build it into some of their curriculum. We're also talking to the elementary and secondary schools about how can we emphasize soft skills in some of the work being done there. But it's a very prevalent problem.
Well, Dave, shouldn't that maybe be taught more in any course that is a preparatory course?
Well,
going in, teach not only the subject matter, but some things about how to handle yourself in life?
Yes. And a lot of people, typically the educational establishment, I think, has said, well, that's what you learn at home, or you learn that in Sunday school, or you learn that in kindergarten. But there are generational implications to a lot of that, where you have baby boomer supervisors and millennial workers who are wanting to come up in the organization.
And there are real differences there. Certainly, millennials have different expectations, don't they, on leave policies and other
flexibility in general.
Yeah.
I think you hear that a lot. We work with the Kentucky Society of Human Resources statewide organization of HR directors from companies, employers all over the state, and we help them sponsor the Best Places to Work competition. This year we have far more companies that have ever applied before. You apply, you pay a fee to apply, and then your employees get a confidential survey. What do you think? Is your workplace safe? Do you find that your supervisor listens to you? Do you think your ideas get a fair hearing? Do you think your pay policies are fair? All that, and two-thirds of the judging is really by your own employees. Then there's some other stuff about how you communicate and whether or not you have certain policies in place. But there'll probably be 60 to 100 companies honored in the spring out of that competition. And the reason companies want to do that, not only to look at their own policies, but also if they win that, they usually put a banner on the front of their building saying we're one of the best places to work in Kentucky, because they're trying to attract young workers.
And it's shared out on social media and
That's
so
right.
forth.
That's right.
And they all,
it becomes a bragging point, and it should.
Yeah, all right. Dave Adkisson, thank you as always. Appreciate you coming by.
Good to be with you, Bill.
Be an interesting session ahead, right?
Very interesting.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. Stay with WKYT News for all the latest in this holiday week ahead, and make it a good week ahead.